heavy suspension for Tristan Xerri. The leading contender to the All-Australian ruckman hit with a 3-match ban.
What did we learn from the season's most pivotal round as fortunes rise and fall in the run to the finals?
And the Jack Graham controversy as it played out behind the scenes. The Eagles and Giants coaches join us.
We've talked about is step into it, embrace all of it.
Get in the room and fix it.
It's unedifying for a senior coach to do that.
They're on the side of caution with the brain. Take the man off.
They played the best footy I've ever seen at the start of the season. And if you'd said Brisbane lift the cup, I would have said, of course they do.
It's the stuff that legends are made of.
What is holding the ball? I don't think I could answer it clearly right now.
I could do something wrong, and I need to go. And the board sacks me.
The fans love it, and with no fans, no 360, right?
All the angles of round 18 lie ahead of us. Gaz, it's nice to see you.
It's about to open up then. Nice to have you back, Jared. You've been just a short little sabbatical over to the States.
In a dance, Dad, for a week?
Bit of Viper Room action.
Not quite.
Well, didn't whip over to Vegas for 24 hours?
The Dance Dads are a resourceful lot. They found the AFL on US TV.
Oh, that's
Fox Sports too.
The Dance Dads Viper Room just doesn't quite mesh. Lovely to have you back. I know you had a good break, so that's a good thing.
Some games, though, shouldn't be seen at home, let alone abroad.
Single-handedly, if you could have pulled off Richmond and Essendon off all airwaves over in America, if we had any ambition to take the game to the States, that would have killed it dead in the water, Jared. It was one of those nights, Saturday night, but there was plenty of good footy to talk about.
Did you keep your sense of humour about you?
The words of Kerry Packer, I only got a couple of bits of indirect advice from the great man, and that was, don't you ever talk down a game that I've paid millions for, son. So I continued to try, and I was one of the last of the Mohicans selling it hard, but in the end, there was a passenger player, I just said, no, that's it.
That's it.
Sorry, Kerry, that's it. Can't help you.
Here's what we've got lined up for you tonight on Coaches Night. Adam Kingsley and Andrew McQualter are going to join us. All that's happened in the round and the aftermath. And what a couch this is tonight. What a special edition. Not only Lee Matthews, but Mike Sheehan's here as well.
Jeez, the budget's been blown right out of the water. I just saw the commissioner wander in. So Lee's been here a few times, but to have Matthews and Sheehan back on the couch, bit of advice for Geordie and Jack. Just sit back, boys. Just sit back and let them run tonight.
All right, tomorrow night, Zach Merritt is going to join us. These are crisis times at Essendon. The injury plague is just extraordinary. And Jeremy Howe, who's having a magnificent season, has got his own injury setback, so we'll hear from him. Razor will be in, and then Wednesday night, our favourite duo, Adam Simpson, John Longmire. Now, Jonathan Brown, we've left the kicker off there. He's going to join us from Vegas.
Speaking of Vegas, at 1:30 in the morning too.
What is Viper Room in Vegas?
That's No, that's down the LA way, but there's plenty in Vegas that can have Jonathan putting down a path that would suggest you must watch that interview at 1:30. When is that? Wednesday.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to that already.
All right. Every Monday night starts with the awarding of the GVPs, the most valuable players from the previous round in the estimation of just one man, Gary Lyon. It is the most sought-after prize in footy, the Ford Mustang, valued at $93,000. Iconic design, unreal performance, 5-litre V8 engine. If you are going to get hot in winter, now would be a good time. Reel off 3 games on the way in.
Exactly.
And win your way into the driver's seat.
It's still winnable from anywhere. They're about to go in camera. Joey didn't make a mess of it when he gave the votes whilst I was away. So Andrew Brayshaw gets a winner. I think it's his first votes for the year. I love that game. And when there's so much on the line, that's where you judge players, and I think the whole Fremantle Footy Club stepped up, but his leadership was outstanding. Laid 14 tackles, I think I see here. Yep, had 29 possessions. Long been a fan of Brayshaw and Sarong, who's been a little bit quieter in recent weeks, but they both got back to it against a very good opposition, so he gets his first votes.
Additional valour for carrying out the post-match interview whilst bleeding.
I didn't see the interview, but I saw him singing the song with an ice pack on his head, holding...
Is there blood trickling down the side of it?
Francis Burke.
Good for his image, I reckon.
Exactly right.
2.
Riley Thilthorpe, the big fella. I don't know if these are his first. No, this is his second lot. He's a Leviathan. It was great to watch. I love this game as well because... And we'll talk about it in a moment. Big forwards against defences that had needed to be tested, and one defence didn't stand up and one did, and on the back of this bloke mainly, kicking 6 goals straight. That's the other thing I love about him. We said this early in the year, they've got a really dangerous forward line that kick goals, take their opportunities. So he's a monster.
Our next-gen key forwards have emerged this year, haven't they?
Yep, you got Darcy Thilthorpe, Cadman, Shannon Neal, Georgiades. They're everywhere. Brings a tear to your eye, Jerry.
And the three.
Couldn't find a key forward for the three because Matthew Rowell was just irrepressible on Friday night. In the biggest game, you know, it was the build-up, the biggest game for the Gold Coast Suns, and you just kind of knew that it'd be Rowell and Anderson and Tuke Miller as well at the start of the game until he got a hamstring. But he was just extraordinary. He tackled his way. He tackled them into submission in the end. Josh Dacos played a last quarter that won't be matched, I don't think, for the season. But 32 touches, 13 tackles, 18 contested, 12 clearances, and he kicked 2 goals. He kicked big goals. His first one was outside 50. So he's just a superstar for that lad. Right. So he's a mover.
He is. He's up to 6. You could easily see him making his charge in the back portion of this season. Patrick Dangerfield continues to lead 9. Toby Green, Jesse Hogan, Matt Rowell on 6, and Steelside Bottom and Cozzy Pickett there on 5. All right, let's get into the agenda. And at the top of it, North Melbourne ruckman Tristan Xerri has been banned for 3 matches for a hit which knocked out Tom Sparrow cold at the MCG yesterday. It has ramifications on a few fronts, including the race to the All-Australian ruckman, where in some minds he had been the presumptive pick.
Yeah, I haven't really had a good look at it, and I don't really want to make any comment on it other than my first concern was for Tom and his family. Like, it looked nasty.
Gee, he's out cold, and that is not good news. And you can see there's a bit of biff on afterwards as well.
Yeah, I thought it was high. Once I saw my teammate down, I knew I had to sort of respond.
Here you go. Full blood rule. North Melbourne.
When it's a competitive game of footy and there's a lot of numbers around the ball, sometimes accidents like that are going to happen.
So that's reckless. He's going to... Yeah, he'll see some time for that. I don't think there was anything untoward for it, but he's got it wrong.
Yep.
We're all disappointed when any player gets injured, but that's the game, and there's always things that happen like that are just unfortunate circumstances that are the result of 18 balls going at each other.
Poor hit. He was out before he hit the ground.
Xerri's going over there now. Just course, he's gone over to apologise, but the boys wouldn't let him.
The question was trailing arm or swinging arm. Was it an accident or was it careless? It doesn't have to be any more than careless. And in the estimation of the MRO, Michael Christian, it met the bill. It was clearly severe impact and it was obviously high to the head. Knocked a player out cold. So it had some of the trappings of the Connor Nash suspension from earlier in the year. How did you see it?
My flinch reaction was accident. That was my first reaction. I've seen all those angles before, but there was one from behind that has me revisiting that. That's the first time I've seen that angle from behind, which suggests that he should have had a greater duty of care. I think this one here. So that looks. So that's the first time I've seen that one from behind. That looks a lot worse. In slow motion, it looks terrible, Jared. I'll argue the case with you on the Connor Nash one. In slow motion, it looks like it, but when you get knocked out, then you're in all sorts of trouble. You think it was well worthy, yeah?
Yep, I think it's clearly careless. Not callous.
No, careless.
I think Connor Nash was callous, but it only has to meet the threshold of careless. Nash got 4, so this fits neatly into 3.
Okay. Yeah, well, I can't really argue against it. I think my first gut reaction was, he didn't mean that in any way, shape or form. I thought he was having a swipe at the footy. I think the look from behind, I'm a bit more inclined to think. I was thinking then 1 week. I know it's not going to get to 1 week, but I'm in our own minds. But now I can't really argue the case too much about it. So unfortunate for a man who's had a good year. He's had a really good year.
So those hefty suspensions this year that were shown, this is the 3rd one North Melbourne had. They've challenged the previous 2. So Tom Sparrow's matters, so how he goes through the concussion protocol. Then the spin-off, and I wonder if North Melbourne balances this up, is Xerri's the leading contender to be the All-Australian ruckman, but there is a chasing brigade. It has Gawn, it clearly has Grundy, who's charging home at the moment, Luke Jackson and Darcy Cameron. Now, Gawn, Grundy and Cameron haven't missed a game. Jackson's missed 3 through injury. For the prestige that's on offer there, it would be a bad time to miss 3 games.
Yeah. Well, again, I don't want to make this a habit, but Max Gawn's not chasing anyone. they're chasing him. He's still the number one ruckman. And I really think Grundy's the one who's closest. Yeah. And Cameron's breathing down his neck. And I'd have Sherry, who I really rate. But I think sometimes we get a bit carried away with you know, the incumbent and the chasers. I don't think Tristan Sherry's able to do what Max Gawn does. He plays in a different manner. But Gawn, for me, is still the one. But it's Grundy that's closing really hard, and Cameron's had a fantastic year as well. And then over in the West, they'll be pushing hard for Jackson, but that's come late. And his time will come, I think. Where do you sit on it?
Yeah, I'm with Gawn and Grundy.
Yeah.
So there are those who are prepared to lock Sherry. If he serves his 3-match ban, you're going to unlock him.
Yeah.
He's no certainty.
That'll be a matter for the selectors, of course, but no, they're still chasing the big fish.
The other case that goes to the tribunal tomorrow night makes no sense to me. So this is Adam Cerra, who'll be the first test case under the crackdown on umpire contact. We referenced this at the time. There were 9 players who were immediately in jeopardy on the snap change in this rule, and Cerra was one of them. And this is how it progresses. It progresses through round 8, 2024, a $1,250 fine, then round 20 of that year at $1,800 fine, and then up to $3,125, and now up to an appearance at the tribunal tomorrow night, which I can't fathom. This simply does not belong at the tribunal, and if I were the chairman halfway through tomorrow night's case, I would stop proceedings and go, I don't understand what you're asking us to do here.
I assume he's going to work out whether he's going to be suspended, not just fined.
Andrew Dillon has been at great pains to say that this is not going to result in suspension. So I don't understand what it's going to...
Did he say not going to or not necessarily resulting?
Well, I think he was trying to calm the horses in the days after they made their announcement.
He was to Damien Hardwick, who went very strongly in defence of Rao. I don't know whether he closed the door. I think it doesn't necessarily lead to a suspension.
So there's no possibility that what happened on Thursday night should result in a suspension. You can watch those for yourself and you can make your own judgments, and I'll give you the comparison piece in a moment. But I just don't understand what they're asking the tribunal for. And I guess we'll all learn. But if they go and ask for a $6,000 fine or an $8,000 fine, well, Harley Reid's just been given a $10,000 fine for his sixth incident. Yeah. This is the 4th of umpire contact, of which they're all... we're trying to avoid this, to give the umpires their space to get out. I do understand that. Yeah. But how this... I just don't understand what they're asking the tribunal to do. Just give him an extra $2,000. Well,
I assumed I assumed that suspension was potentially still on the table, and that's what the tribunal would determine. And they might come back and say, no, you can have 10. There was a little umpire contact with Rao and Dacos on Friday night, but this is how hypersensitive, we are to it all. And it was the very, very tiny low end of the scale. So he's pushed. There's just a contact there. He backs out of it. Now, that hasn't been cited. But there was one that was involved Toby Green that we showed last week with Toby, that the contact wasn't much more than that resulted in a fine. So they're hypersensitive at the moment. And look, in my own mind, I thought that they were going to determine whether or not he was going to be suspended, because all the talk was, OK, if you do it again, you blokes, you've been told, you've been pointed out to you, if you do it again, you face suspension. That's what I assumed tonight.
So we sort of were given a crackdown and then told, but by the way, we're not cracking down on suspension. I can't fathom what the purpose of it is, and I guess we'll learn tomorrow night.
Well, I can't fathom what the purpose is for fining a man for an act that, had he done it on the first occasion, I would have suspended him for, let alone the 6th. That, Gerard, I'm sorry, and I've defended Harley across the journey, that is a suspension every day of the week. And if you condone this in the manner of just giving him a fine, money's not going to be a problem for Harley Reid. There's the class-playing cohort that are in the media now will all agree on that. That's the leg breaker. That's a kick, Gerard. I'm not being oversensitive, over-dramatic. And as you know, I've been a defender of Harley's as a young, impetuous, brat that hasn't quite learned his way. But that is not a fine, Gerard, let alone the 6th time he's been fined this year. That is a suspension for Harley Reid every single day. And if you don't suspend that, you leave the door open for lots of terrible incidents. And that's failed the game, that.
Yeah, if we are searching for the dangerous trip,
it's a fail,
every bit of it.
Sorry.
All right, the results themselves, and this set up as the most pivotal round of the season, one that was going to shape aspirations and probably shake out who the pretenders were as well. So the winning had consequence and was glorious.
Not this time! away winners tonight. Like, how big is that for the whole club?
Yeah, it's big.
This could be the year for the Gold Coast Suns. It's a huge win. It sets them up for a run to play in September.
We played an outstanding brand of footy, so, you know, I'm sitting there hoping that the city of Gold Coast jump on and look at this side and think, Christ, I want to be a part of this. You know, we're starting to build something I think that is unique, but also can be quite special.
Yeah, big win for our footy club.
The story today has been the Adelaide Crows and the statement they have made, and not just a statement, a powerful one at that.
We knew the challenge coming in, it was going to be a big one, and it wouldn't be perfect. We're aiming for perfect, but we weren't. But to get a win.
And the Giants slayed a giant today. Demolished the Cats.
We want to celebrate the game in the right way for him, but we also knew it was an incredibly important game against the Cats to continue to try and climb up that ladder.
A huge performance by the Dockers. They responded in the final quarter from 13 points down to win it by 13 points on a big Saturday night that means so much for the finals push.
Probably a sign of the motto we've lived by over the last 8 weeks of just living in the moment and making sure we win each day and try and prepare our best.
Don't book the Bahamas just yet. Fremantle are into the 8.
Method and process, sometimes what matters is the 4 points, and this was a weekend for that. So what did it do on the Snakes and Ladders? Certainly for Fremantle, it enhanced their reputation, but also their position in things. The big losers are the Bulldogs, who slide their way out. Gold Coast climb, the Giants climb, Fremantle climb. And I was on the plane thinking about 9th. Whoever ends up there is going to be bitterly disappointed, because have a quick think. If it was the Dogs, what a blown season. If it was Fremantle, it would cost the coach his job. If it was the Giants, they can beat all the key players. If it was Hawthorn, that would be regression. If it was Gold Coast from here, it would be unthinkable. And then if I doubt any of the... Well, Geelong could fall out, and that would be bitter disappointment. But so the haves against the haves. This, I keep holding to the Bulldogs.
I know.
And I'm wrong.
Yeah.
1-7 is the same record against top 9 teams as Carlton and Richmond.
Yeah.
There are 4 teams, Melbourne, St Kilda, Sydney and Port, who have better records against them. Fremantle have a sneaky good record here at 5-2. But that's the contenders versus the contenders.
Yeah, at this stage of the year, at round 18, you are what you are, right? There's no... Early in the season when we're sitting here, we're sort of... casting forward, well, maybe that doesn't lie. So that's where they are, and they have to live with it, and there's no getting around that.
And
so,
this was the story of the Crows and the Bulldogs for you.
And the game going in, you think, geez, both sides are loaded in the front half, and both heavily scoring, 1 and 2, I think, for scoring. And the back half, some vulnerabilities lies in both. And the Western Bulldogs back half just didn't get it done, and Adelaide's did. And I couldn't help but thinking, Mark Keane has evolved into Liam Jones. Yeah. And they haven't got Liam Jones. So Liam Jones is no longer Liam Jones, if you know what I mean. Yeah. Mark Keane has been an unbelievable story. So he goes today, he just had to cover everyone because, they lost butts and everything else. And at the other end of the ground, they're screaming out for Liam Jones to be the Liam Jones he was 3 or 4 years ago, but he's not. And that's the gaping hole that had Silthorpe kick 6. Everything from a Western Bulldogs point of view, they lost by 2 goals. So it's not the end of the world. It's not a disaster. But the back 6 for the Adelaide Crows matched what they were doing in the midfield and up forward. They're a serious footy side, the Adelaide Crows. So they're going to be a really good watch.
So the predicament for the Bulldogs, is it solvable? Can they... So they're not in premiership contention now. They're not in the 8.
No.
Can they get there in a concentrated burst?
So the old premiership window that the boys next door that we've had doesn't lie either. So 20 out of 20 or 19 out of 19, you must be top 6 for defence. They're nowhere near it, Jared. So they're not contending on that basis, which puts Luke Beveridge right in the position of where he's at his absolute best, when people tell him he can't, when people say your side can't. So they go up to Brisbane with a backs to the wall Luke Beveridge, which is when he's at his absolute dangerous, which... They're going to be a great watch too for the rest of this year, I reckon, because he knows the problem. How do you fix it? Get to work.
The story from Gold Coast was really clear, and that you couldn't go far enough. Most significant win in the club's history.
Yeah.
Puts the down payment on where they've never been before, and it crystallised for you in the very moments that it was unfolding.
Yeah, it did, and it came to the end. Like, they gave up 5 goals in a row. Elliott kicks the win, puts them 3 points ahead, and we know what Collingwood are like in that situation. They've been so brave, and your mind goes, there was an inevitability about this, but they refused to concede it. And it was the captain. It was Noah Anderson. I've already spoken about Rao, who's unbelievable. And the ball goes back into the middle of the ground where the ball has to be won. So they've been headed for the first time, Jared. This is Anderson. He gets the deft touch, then good enough to win the footy back, and this leads to the goal that puts them back in front. So if you don't get the reply straight away against this Collingwood side, you just don't get the result you want because they're too good. So it's Noah Anderson who says, well, let me go in. Here's the free kick to Long. Ball comes back in. This is the very next centre bounce. So they've got the 3-point lead back, but the doubt's still there. What happens next? Captain gets involved again, gets the ball back, and at this point secures victory, and in my little mind says that's the All-Australian captain right there.
First year in the job.
First year in the job. I'm pumping Noah Anderson as the All-Australian captain. And, there's this, I won't swear, there's this bulldust mentality that, you got to be in the job. It's he and Jordan Dawson. They're the two. Jordan Dawson's a superstar. So if he's the captain, I'm not blowing about that. But Noah Anderson, to me, has been enormous, and his form, not only from a leadership point of view, his form is standing up week in and week out. So there's your development. Pre-game it was, can they match him in the middle? Can it be Anderson and Rowell and Miller? Well, it was all of that, and Humphrey was the other one that got involved. So great, we're going to get a new face in September.
And the demeanour of Damien Hardwick, so he knows the moments that represents breakthrough and the fresh threshold. Lift the horizon. This was the lift the horizon night.
Not sure who the cameraman was, but he gets votes. He gets GVP camera votes for that, because you can keep it on the song. We've all seen the song. There's the proud father sitting out there just looking down, going, "Yep, that's exactly what we wanted to get out of Friday night. We didn't just." The victory, the 40 points that we got to was beautiful as well, but we got headed and then we dug deep, and our leader took us to the promised land.
Fremantle's spent the week under the microscope, having lost the place in the 8. So whoever's ninth is going to live this week, and then it's how you're going to respond. And they tackled their way through.
Yeah. There's a bit of this coming out. I thought Brisbane on Thursday night just smashed Carlton from a tackling point of view. I've still got Cam Rayner crunching blokes left, right and centre. And then this game, 103 tackles they laid. Brayshaw, captain. It was, when you go back and watch it, the pressure moments arise, and then you go... Sometimes your mind just goes to places, Jared, and Hawthorn get out and you go, they're out here against this Fremantle team. In the past, they weren't able to stop them or lay a tackle, but not on Friday night. And this spoke volumes as well. Longmuir under some pressure from externals like this. Look at these efforts here. One, then you think they're out. No, they're not. Then you think they're out. No, they're not. And then they're back and gone again. So I thought that was really significant. Brayshaw had 14. Johnson 9. O'Meara had 8. Got to work, and Jackson had half a dozen. I thought it was a massive part of what they did on Friday night. And this time of the year, there's a bit of a mentality around just tackle your way through this. Everything's not going beautifully, workload, training loads, all that sort of stuff. Let's tackle our way through it. First thing the Western Bulldogs players said on Saturday, what went wrong? Too many broken tackles. It was the first thing they said. That comes to the coach.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, they tackled their way through that.
Mid-July. And then the Giants against the Cats. So the Giants have got this sneaky good record. Not sneaky good record, as you had your last dollar on them, and it's 4 in a row.
They did. I tell you what, they got Geelong's measure, 4 in a row. So they've beaten Geelong, they've beaten the Suns, and they've beaten the Lions in the last 4 weeks. So we'll talk to Adam Kingsley in a moment, so I'll save most of that for them. But no, that is a great form line coming in, and that form line against top 9 sides that we saw earlier would hold them in pretty good stead. And they've got players that are playing good footy. They've managed their playing group really well. And they got Taylor to come back into that side.
The Geelong side of things, they've now got this curious poor record against both the Lions and the Giants, which is unusual for Chris Scott coached teams.
Yeah. Well, actually, Chris, in his press conference, which I love listening to anyway, he said, Hogan got us last time. That doesn't happen. Now, players don't kick big bags against us too often. And then Cadman comes out and kicks 6. Yeah. So, they've worked it out pretty well.
All right, so those are the key 4 games from a pivotal weekend of footy, and one of the coaches is going to join us next. So Andrew McQualter and Adam Kingsley, the Giants coach, has his team surging. The good form line building, and Andrew McQualter. It's hard yards for the Eagles, who got perilously close yesterday.
Smooth Moves, brought to you by Jamison Whiskey.
The Jamison Whiskey Smooth Moves belong to Jason Horne-Francis, who was the centre of an awful lot of theatre and a wonderful moment of skill to get Port Adelaide home. He's done it with an acute broken foot, which has him bound for surgery potentially and maybe out for the remainder of the season. So as tensions were boiling over, Horne-Francis had his moments.
It's about when I tuned in, actually, Jared, having watched a lot of other footy, and it got... the Eagles have been really brave. We've talked to Minnie about that, and it just got a bit big for him. But he was on fire. But that doesn't sound great. Sounds maybe the season.
All right, our coach is Andrew McQualter. Andrew, great to have you back with us. Welcome.
Thanks, Jared. Thanks for having me.
Adam Kingsley, always great to have you on 360. Welcome back.
No worries, guys. Thanks for having me.
So before we delve into the events of this round and what it all meant, you're bound together by a Friday night from round 18, which has the unsavoury moment with Jack Graham, which a week later we learnt about, and it's a 4-week suspension from a homophobic slur. Andrew, I wanted to ask you, at what point did you have a conversation with Jack, and what was the nature of that chat?
Yeah, so I was made aware post-game of what Jack had said, and spoke to Jack, who's incredibly remorseful, as you'd expect, and so I was made aware of it post-game, and we made the Giants aware straight away.
Adam, did you think at that point it would be resolved by the 2 clubs?
Probably not. I mean, I think the process unfolded was to wait for an official report to be made by the umpire or any match day official, and when that wasn't lodged, then I think the appropriate course of action was taken. The AFL were alerted, and then the process sort of unfolded from that moment, from our perspective.
Andrew, last week, Jack was being spoken about as a future captain for the Eagles, perhaps even next season. Does it do anything in your eyes to his leadership standing within the club in the long term?
Oh, look, I think Jack made a really bad error, but I don't think we should judge a person just on one mistake. He's a terrific leader, and it was an out-of-character error, and he'll cop a severe punishment for it. And hopefully he's part of the solution going forward to continue to educate others.
Are you happy with... Not happy. Has it been appropriately dealt with by the league in your eyes, Andrew?
Yeah, Jack and the club, we accepted the sanction that was handed down to Jack, and he'll miss a month of footy.
And Adam, from the Giants' perspective, do you think it was handled right?
Yeah, we were satisfied with the process and the outcome. I mean, Jack reached out to both myself and the player involved and apologised. So I thought, that was good of both Jack and the West Coast Eagles. Very much appreciated. And so the process from then unfolded, and with the AFL involvement, they've decided on a course of action, which is not only a 4-match suspension, as I understand it, but it's also a little bit of education. And we all know that there's no place for that in our game, and people make mistakes, and it's important to educate and forgive, and that's what's happening in this process.
Yeah, well said. Now let's get to the events of the weekend, which are exciting for both of you, really. But from a Giants' point of view, the arrival of, or not the arrival, the continued arrival of Aaron Cadman. We spoke to you last time about him and his abilities. I heard you talk about him post-game. I mean, you've seen this coming for a while. It's nice to get it rubber stamped and then get a signature on a contract.
Yeah, it certainly is. Timely too, I might add. On the back of the weekend's performance, it was done the day before. So whether that released a little bit of anxiety or anything around that, he certainly performed terrifically. It was a key part of our game. And I've spoken in the past about how he is continually putting himself in positions to impact games, to mark the balls. I think he's the best follow-up key forward in the competition. But for him to be able to, take his marks and finish his work was was really important for us, no doubt. But it'll be really important for him moving forward too. You know, he's played less than 50 games, or about 50 games, sorry, and continuing to develop. So the confidence that he'll generate out of that is hopefully takes him another step forward.
So you got Jesse as your nominal full forward. You got Jake, who you've handled really well, and Toby and whoever else you want going through there. It looks so capable. What do you call him, Aaron Cadman? Old-time centre-half forward? Where is he playing?
He's kind of like a secondary key forward. I mean, he has the running capacity to play like an old-school key forward, like a Nick Riewoldt or a Jonathan Brown, but I think he's so versatile. He can get up the ground and compete up there, but he can also work his way back inside forward 50. I think he's developing his split technique, his ability to get split on his opponent and to generate some easy uncontested marks. But it was really his contested marking and his ability to finish sort of snaps. I think maybe is part of the reason why he was able to sort of generate the type of game that he did. But he's incredibly versatile. I mean, early days we were training him as a second ruck. I don't think that was all that conducive to performing as the key forward after that. But we've managed to sort of settle him down, and he keeps presenting. I mean, that's the thing. You know yourself as a forward, if you can get in line of the ball and keep presenting, whether it's at the leg or over the back, you keep the ball getting kicked to you, and you give yourself opportunity.
Number 1 draft picks. Andrew, what did you make of Harley Reid and Jason Horne-Francis and their various footballing moments and their various battles across yesterday?
Yeah, they both love the battle, don't they? They're good competitors. I thought there was some good theatre yesterday. Unfortunately, Horne-Francis probably got the cream in the end when he kicked that goal. But I thought it was a good battle. I love the way Harley competes. I love the way Horne-Francis competes and butters. I think they're good for the game, the way they go about it. And you know, Harl's just he's carrying a big load in our midfield at the moment, and I think he's doing a good job. We've got a young midfield. That's what we've got at the moment. Unfortunately, Yowie hasn't played any games for us this year. So Harley's in the fight every game, which we love.
So the theatre is real, and it was good to watch. I'm wondering about, you know, your frustration or otherwise with, you know, some of the things he does, and where's the line on it? And have you been hard enough in trying to establish, you know, what's acceptable and what's not acceptable from, you know, someone as young as he is, but someone that's obviously so important to you?
Yeah, it's an ongoing battle. We're sort of having it a bit with a few of our other players as well. Just, we want our players to be fiercely competitive, but we also want to stay incredibly disciplined and not give away free kicks. We have some challenges with the territory game as it is, so we don't want to give opposition any easy ones. So we're going to keep trying to be fierce, but not give away any free kicks.
And what does he say to you when you... So we're looking at the trip here, which I'm really strong at. I think he's unbelievably lucky to be playing this weekend. I think he should have been suspended, and they've missed a trick here, the AFL. But what's his response when you do sit down and say, come on, mate, there are things that you're doing really well, but there are things you've got to get better at, and you're a bit of a recidivist in some of these areas?
Yeah, he's certainly responsive to it. He understands that he wants to win and compete, but he has to get his balance right. And I think when I was 20 years old, I made a few mistakes as well, and part of his learning process that he's going through, and I've got no doubt he'll continue to improve and get better at it.
Adam, what are you getting out of Jake Stringer at the moment?
Yeah, we like the way he's working into our. We like the way he's working into the system in front of the ball. You know, he's working incredibly well with his teammates. And you mentioned a few of them before, but you've got Callum Brown, Darcy Jones, Toby Bedford now working in there. Toby Green's reasonable. With Brent Daniels hopefully to get back pretty soon. So he's playing a really important role ahead of the ball. He's bobbing up and kicking some goals. You know, that Gold Coast game a few weeks ago, he kicked 2 of the more amazing goals you'll see right when we needed them. And so his ability to finish his work has been a little bit subpar, I guess, over the course of the season, but feels like he's coming good at the right time. So really important. Our players love having him as a teammate and really enjoying him.
It seems like you've managed it beautifully, whether by good luck or design. Like, he's had a few injuries, so he's had to have some time away, and you brought him back and he played the sub and then lit the joint up when he came back on. He looks lean, he looks fit. Is it a management thing? Is it a bit of his penny drop? Is it a bit of the fact that he needs you more than you need him? How do you see it?
I think it's probably a combination of all that. You know, he came in. He was a little bit unlucky early part of the season. He got some illness early on, and I think that's probably contributed to some soft tissue stuff. So he did a hamstring early on in the season, and then round 9, I think it was, against the Cats down there, was another slight hamstring injury. So he could have been back a couple of weeks, but we decided to sort of try and give him a mini pre-season throughout the middle of the year. So he came back in for that Gold Coast game after missing about 5 or 6 weeks, I think it was, and feels like he's in really good shape. But again, you never know, and he's making a really great contribution, not only hitting the scoreboard, but as I said, playing a role and pressuring, and you know, a really good tackle in the forward pocket against one of the Cats players where he didn't kick the goal, but it's just a sign of his intent to support his teammates and really contribute, and that's what we love about him most so far.
Andrew, mid-July and one win to your name. I love Gary's word, nourishment. Sometimes you need the nourishment of a win. How are you going without that and the gains that you're trying to make?
Just before I answer that, Jared, I was a bit disappointed the cameras didn't catch Kingers and his Speedos down there at the beach before. Most certainly would have been in them. But, yeah, look, if you look at our season from a win-loss, it's been brutal. Like, it's really hard to be at this point of the season as really competitive people and players and only have one win. So that's challenging, but it's funny that we've kind of got this feeling at the moment, and I'm really confident that we're getting better. And I know it sounds a bit silly to say when we've only had one win, but we're working really hard in our game. We are seeing improvements each week, but we've still got some challenges and been able to put it together for 4 quarters. So we understand where we are as a club. We're on a journey. We're playing some good quarters, and our best footy's pretty competitive against most teams, but unfortunately the gap at the moment is too big.
You found a couple of big key forwards in Shanahan and Williams that can carry you forward?
Yeah, I think we really have, and even Archer Reid, who's not playing at the moment. You know, we're in a position where we've got our 2 best key forwards not playing in Jake Waterman and Oscar Allen through injury. So it provides opportunity, and we've seen Job Shanahan come in the last 3 weeks, and he looks every part of an AFL player. And as you don't get many 18-year-olds competing like this in our game, so it's great to see some of those guys getting opportunity, and it's exciting for the future.
Adam, it was such a pivotal round in trying to shake things out, so it's a big 4 points to get. Have you got the evidence in recent weeks that you can be right in it?
Yeah, we certainly have. I mean, we've always felt that, but it's always nice to get a bit of verification by beating some really good teams. And as you mentioned earlier, we've beaten 3 top 8 teams in the last 4 weeks: Gold Coast, Brisbane, up there, and Geelong at home. So, you know, we take great confidence out of that. We've still got a lot of work to do to try and build towards September and qualify. We're well aware of that. We've got a 5-day break down at Marvel against Essendon this weekend. So, you know, that'll present some level of challenge, you know, in terms of our group. But, you know, the games just, they don't seem to get any easier. You know, we've got to try and capitalise and continue to build, and we're well aware of that. But certainly the win against the Cats was super important to progressing forward.
So knowing it's a 5-day break with travel, have you already made your plans sort of well in advance as to who will and who won't?
Yeah, we've made some plans. So there'll be a couple of players who won't play.
Are you going to tip your hand just yet?
You could probably guess who they are. I mean, Jesse Hogan was one guy we were a little bit cautious about playing in the game against the Cats with his week previous with a foot and an illness. So he won't make the trip down to Melbourne. So we'll manage him and make sure that foot settles down a bit.
All right, our coaches on duty, Adam Kingsley and Andrew McQualter, will broaden out in a moment. And then on the couch, so this is a special edition. It's a throwback edition. They're here together again.
If Mike Sheen doesn't turn up in a pink shirt, I'll be very, very disappointed, Jared.
Surely, yes. Mike Sheen, Lee Matthews, together again on the couch, coming up shortly. His favourite footy club other than his own is Liverpool, and these scenes were something special post-game for Lachie Whitfield, just the third Giant to reach 250 games, and the club celebrated him in great style with the banner and the music. And for a start-up club, as they start to get these loyal servants all the way through, it enriches the milestones, I reckon.
I think the Giants do this as well as any club. I know they all do it really well, celebrating their players and milestones, but he's become such an important part of what you do, Kingers. I saw Josh Dacos go from half-back flank into the middle and rip the game to shreds on Friday night. Lachie just found his slot at half-back and never really came back into the middle. Is he destined to finish there?
More than likely. I mean, we have used him in the middle when we've needed it over the last couple of years, and he's done an incredible job for us. But yeah, he's such a good half-back. That was a great way to celebrate his 250th. That You'll Never Walk Alone, and they had the song playing in the background, all on the back of Liverpool. It's a little bit more emotional than perhaps just Lachie just being a Liverpool supporter and watching the Premier League on TV. Apparently, his grandfather grew up a pretty tough life in Liverpool, and the Liverpool Football Club became a real important pillar in his life, which really helped him, make it a good life. And so it's a bit of a family thing, that, as I understand it, that it runs a little bit deeper than just being a supporter. So for our club to identify that and celebrate that, I thought it was fantastic for Lachie and his family.
That's lovely. How are you utilising Callan Ward at the moment? We saw him down with you on the bench.
Yeah, Cal's such a, I don't know, he's so calming. It doesn't matter what the situation is. He just seems to have a really level head and some sound advice. So want him to try and mix in with our players and our staff down there just to calm things down when it's required, or rev things up when it's required. He's such a wealth of knowledge to our playing group and our coaching staff. So anything he can offer us down there, I think, is incredibly valuable. And I think we saw some of the fruits of that during the game.
You've got Essendon and Richmond each. Would you like Gary's notes, Andrew, from what transpired on Saturday night? I think he's got reams and reams of them.
Yeah, I watched the game as well, so I've got a few of my own, but we can share them later, Gaz, if you like.
So actually, West Coast have got Richmond and the Giants have got the Bombers. So I know you've got to do your homework and your due diligence. Don't spend too much. That's all. Don't spend too much time on it, boys.
So Andrew, you played a great game at the MCG earlier in the season. Will you? We spoke about the elusive wins. Will you try to build this game right up as, I don't know, will you make it something special to try to get that win?
Oh, look, we won't, mate. It's I appreciate that Richmond are in a similar position to us in terms of their age profile and ladder position, but it's funny. I remember talking to Kingers about this quite a few years ago when he worked at the Saints, and they had a few lean years that genuinely each week I sort of do the prep for a game, and I get to a Friday and I believe we can win every game of footy. Yeah. So that's sort of how you end up as a coach, and this week I'm confident we'll do the prep and we'll feel no different on Friday.
Have you had any joy going to the umpires previously, Adam, or on a specific player? So your old boss, Damien Hardwick, rolled it out with Matt Rowell, and he got a season-high 7 free kicks, which just felt a little bit cause and effect.
Yeah, well, to be fair, I haven't done a lot of it. Every now and then you send clips in just to kind of get a feel for what the decisions were and whether we were hard done by. But really, it's more about trying to make yourself feel a little bit better about decisions than anything else. So, but if it's going to have the impact that perhaps Dimmer had with the umpires, then maybe we should do it a little more often.
It was quite a funny the way it unfolded. Probably the live issue around umpires at the moment is getting out of their space and the player contact. We're about to see a test case tomorrow night where I'm not quite sure what the AFL's endeavours are with Adam Cerra. Have you thought about this a bit? Have you spoken to your players? Have you got a suggestion at all, Andrew, first?
Oh, it's incredibly tricky. We've got a player that's on, I think, three strikes already, so he's one away from going to the tribunal. You could have a bit of a guess on who you think that player might be, but we presented it to our players last week, and yeah, it's such a challenge because there's so much stoppage craft. there's matchups, there's all these things happening. It's a 360 game. It's really challenging. So there's not an easy answer to it, I don't think. It's going to be fascinating to see what happens tomorrow night at the Tribunal.
Adam?
Well, it feels like the issues are centre bounce and midfield ball-ups, really, or ball-ups over the ground, probably. And I don't know, is there a time thing? We're desperate to keep the game moving. Do we throw the ball up too quickly before players have had a chance to get out of the way? Should we stand behind the rucks and throw the ball? Should we sort of ball the ball up like it's a boundary throw-in? I'm not sure. There's probably a bunch of different suggestions, but it's going to be a difficult one. I think we all agree that the fact that we need to try and minimise the contact between umpires and players to protect both, really, not just the umpires but also the players. And so any solution that anyone has that's going to alleviate that's going to be a good one.
You two boys started Fix It. Jared's had some success. We'll give you a night off tonight. Kenny Hinkley had the teeth going. You had the pythons on the weekend. Is that the go-to lolly for you, Kingers?
Well, after you demonstrated the teeth last week, yeah, the pythons are definitely mine. Yeah, I do enjoy a lolly or two, but yeah, the pythons are the go-to.
And the open slather for the ruck contest, which you suggested, is still the clubhouse leader, Minnie. We're still selling that hard.
Let the big boys go at it.
Yep. Good on you. Great to have you both with us. Good luck for what's to come next.
Good on you, boys.
Thanks,
fellas.
Andrew McCall to add. Adam Kingsley with us on Coach's Night, Players' Nights. The Essendon captain, Zach Merris, will be with us at the desk. And the injured veteran magpie, Jeremy Howe. So just what is the extent of that groin injury? We'll learn tomorrow night.
NAB Goal of the Year nominees.
The NAB Goal of the Year nominees are all the better when they are so implausible as this.
My hand high in the air. I said, what are you doing, Fido? Let's get to the half-time break. And he knew better, the big fella.
He did, Mark Pitnetz. You've shown this already. Noah Anderson, a moment in time, as well as the sheer skill out of the middle to get that done. And Sam Darcy's going to spend his career doing preposterous things.
Yeah, look at this, Jared. He was overshadowed on the night by the big fella at the other end in Riley Thilthorpe. But have a look at this ball control for a 210 centimetre.
Lovely.
He might be right, that fella.
Yes, he might be. Pitnet's going to carry the day there. On the couch in a moment's time, Lee and Mike back together again. The 360 scramble. Oh. The Essendon play, was it worse? How could it get any worse? And it did.
I know.
The Nick Martin one's a shocker.
It was unbelievable. It happened in the first 5 minutes, and it was just a bump, innocuous over the boundary line onto the hard stuff. But we thought, he must have. Maybe he's knocked his knee, but he's out for a year, and the worst time to get an ACL too. He's going to go through 2 pre-seasons probably before he plays footy again, which I think it's crossed he comes back earlier.
That's just macabre what's going on there. But they've got 6 of their last 7 games in prime time. They've got 3 Friday nights, a Thursday night, plus they're going to play twice in round 24, which will have to be Thursday night and Wednesday night.
The greatest misread of all time.
And they had the flexible fixture.
The fixturing misread of the century.
Yep.
Horrible.
Horrible. Zach Merritt joins us at the desk tomorrow night. All right. Is he in the pink?
$1.16 it was.
On the couch.
Welcome to On the Couch. Well, the question on Jared's lips and everyone's lips is he in the pink? Well, he's in the house, and yes, he is in the pink. It's great to have Mike Sheehan here. It is Big Boy Month, and our big boys are away that are on that couch, so we went and got some bigger boys.
We got some older boys.
Well, bigger boys, mid-season recruits, Mike and Lee.
Yeah, I've always been into mature age recruits. I think they've picked well.
You certainly have. Now, you two haven't been on the couch for a while, but let's take a little trip down memory lane. 2006 I think it was the last time you two were seated at the couch together in a tux there, Mike.
Geez, the dress standards have dropped, Mike.
You've got a denim shirt on there, Lee.
Yeah, that was pre a Brownlow, I think. I was only a guest, of course. Mike was
Wolsey and I were going to the Brownlow.
I was just a guest, yeah.
Well, Mike, we are very lucky to have you on. As Lee, we've been lucky enough to have you on this year. Before I get into questions about you, I'm going to make this a little bit about us. How are you feeling at the moment, Geordie, being across from the best player ever?
Thanks,
and
Jack.
I'm going to call you the best journalist ever. How are you feeling at the moment?
Well, I brought my young boy in, Freddie, tonight, and I said, you're going to meet the greatest player that's ever played the game in Lee Matthews, and I said, and Mike Sheen, who you already know. So we've gone, in terms of age and experience on the couch, we've gone basically from Essendon to Collingwood overnight. Yes, which is not a bad thing.
Well, Lee and I were saying before, you were in primary school, you two, when we were at our zenith, whatever that might have been.
So which decade do you want to talk about? There's a lot of decades we can talk about.
There's a few between us, but I want to ask Mike, like, obviously it's great to have you on. Are you still a football connoisseur? Do you watch a lot of footy?
I do. I'm not as passionate as I used to be. I'm more selective because probably, A, I don't have to watch it for work, and B, sometimes I see games like Essendon and Richmond and you couldn't wish that on your worst enemy. So I still love it, but I don't go to as many games as I used to, and I'm more selective.
Do you miss working in AFL football? Because it was your lifetime. And
it was, yeah.
And obviously you don't do it anymore.
No, I don't. And I'm not even sure sometimes why I do these these odd appearances. No, I don't miss the newspaper. I mean, it became sort of overpowering, and I don't miss that. I miss doing open mic. I really enjoy doing that. And it's 5 years since I did that, and 12 years since I was sat on the couch.
The news cycle as a whole has clearly changed from when you were doing it, and even that footage that we saw there. What's your overall thoughts and opinion on how the news is generated these days?
Gee, there's an insatiable appetite for it. I mean, there's so many newspapers, football shows, radio programs and podcasts now that no one can get enough of it. But I mean, I'm a man of habit. Every day I get the Age and the Herald Sun, go to my favourite cafe and read them for an hour and a half, and I like doing that.
Yep.
It sounds very conservative, but that's what I do. I love the papers, and I love being up to date with the news.
What sort of stories tickle your fancy in the papers? What do you look for? What do you enjoy?
Probably longer form stuff. I mean, when I can read an in-depth piece about someone that I'm interested in, not so much about what the coaches say and, you know, the bloke talking about next week, that's all we're looking at, and junk like that. I can bypass that. But I like learning things about people that I'm interested in.
Well, we're about to learn something here. I'm going to let you off the hook for one question, because I'm going to ask Lee. We are 6 weeks out and the season is starting to heat up. You're the greatest player of all time. You're a premiership coach.
Just before you go, you know, someone close to you...
He didn't think that.
I picked Wayne Carey.
Yeah, that's right. I don't know how he got on with that. Yeah,
in our eyes, Lee, you're the greatest player of all time. In Mike's, you've got you a second. Who would you like to be steering at the moment? Which club is the one that you think that would be the club if I was to go in there and grab the reins and go into September? Which club is it for you?
I think it's the top two. They're the sort of proven ones that can do it in September. I mean, even the Crows, they've got to prove they can do it in September. So Collingwood or the Lions, I mean, Collingwood, they fell over, didn't win on Friday night, but, I mean, they've been consistently good the whole year. So you couldn't really go past that. I mean, the ladder really tells the story of what's happened for the first 16 weeks. So it's hard to think... Like, you're talking about teams at their very best. That's maybe slightly different. I mean, the Giants at their very best have looked really good. So have the Bulldogs, but they're 7th, 8th, 9th. They're, Collingwood and Brisbane have been the most consistently good.
And the players, Mike? Your famed top 50, which still lives on through the Chief Herald Sun.
Can I finish the discussion?
Yeah, you can if you like, yes.
No, I'm big on GWS, and I think it's an old one now, but premierships aren't won in June and July, and I just like the way that they're coming to hand. And I think their setup, their structure is... I hate using that word, but I think there's no obvious weakness in that lineup, and they've got a player that I think is the face of the next generation of football in Finn Callaghan.
So, top 50, would you have him as the player for the next generation?
No, I'd have Sam Darcy, which might sound contradictory, but I love this bloke.
What is it about him?
6'4", he can run like the wind, and he's got a beautiful left foot. Left-footers have got a natural advantage anyway, Lee, haven't they?
You reckon because everyone goes for the right foot by habit?
No, I just think they're more natural kicks. I think good left foot... Geordie, you'd agree with that, wouldn't you?
Well, I would, but he wouldn't. I think you're right, and I think, you know, over the years when you've sort of looked at the Giants, a lot comes back to them being displaced in the first half of the season and then getting some continuity and really making a run for it. I think if you really take a deep dive into the Giants, they can be a serious contender.
Where have you got them pegged, Mike? The Giants?
They're the team that I think is the one to beat.
The team to beat. You think the Giants are, in your eyes, premiership favourites?
Well, I don't like that term. I think they're the team to beat.
And what is it about them? I
don't see any obvious weaknesses in the side. They're quick, their skills are beautiful, and I like the way they play footy.
And I think if you look at the improvements year on year, like you would think Cadman right now would be clearly better than he was last year, and he's not going to kick 5 or 6 goals every single week, but he's more of a chance to do that now. And any premiership side needs a solid defence, obviously, and a really functional forward line. So the difference would be Cadman. The difference might be Jake Stringer if he can prove to himself that he can play in big games. So I think they're better placed this year than they were last.
And they've got Hogan there too, Jordan.
And Jesse
Green.
Yeah.
I mean, they look really good.
And the Callaghan one, I love blokes. Look, he to me, no one's a bigger admirer of Marcus Bonampelli than I am, but I think Callaghan has almost taken the next step. He's quicker. No one's in the competition's a better kick than him, and he works hard.
Well, you talk about defence and the bookends, and we've seen the Giants, they've got both ends of the ground covered. Sam Taylor coming back at the moment. Lee, a team that maybe doesn't have that is the Bulldogs. They've got the offensive side of it, but it's the bookends that is the thing that's being tested.
They were a conundrum, aren't they? They've got a percentage of 130 and they're 9th on the ladder. I mean, which goes to say there's something unusual. They can obviously score, but they get scored against, particularly against the very best teams. And it's amazing, when you think, OK, what's the defence of the Bulldogs? Who comes to mind? Well, Lobb. Well, O'Donnell's there. Bailey Dale runs off halfback. Who else is there? All of a sudden, they have a mishmash in their defensive six, I reckon. And whether they bring Liam Jones back to have another big... So let O'Donnell be the third tall rather than try and be the second tall. I guess that's the conundrum for Luke Beveridge and their coaching group.
Do you think that Luke Beveridge is anti-Liam Jones?
Well, he's anti in the sense that he doesn't think he's in his best six, otherwise he would have been there last week, I suppose.
Did they miss a trick not playing Liam Jones on the weekend with the three big bodies at Adelaide?
It would appear so in all the logic, wouldn't it, really? I mean, you got Thilthorpe and then you got Walker and you got Fogarty. So they got 3 good marking players. If ever there was a time if you got a Liam Jones type defender, you'd play them against the Crows. So, I mean, when you say coaches are off players, it means he doesn't think they're in their best... If you're in it's not they don't like them. Do you think they're in your best six or your best defensive group? And clearly, recently, he hasn't believed
Can you develop preconceived ideas about players? Because
no doubt.
You, as a coach, I imagine you see the best in them, but also you can be drawn to the worst in them as well.
Well, that's the case, yeah. But as I'm saying, it's a judgment call, clearly. And we might argue, and it does seem logical, that if there ever was a forward line you play 3 taller defenders against, it's the Crows. And they chose not to. So I don't know what Liam Jones has sort of been doing. Clearly, Luke Beveridge and the coaching staff at the Bulldogs, they see them all the time. So whatever's going on, they haven't made that choice.
You mentioned the word conundrum. The conundrum to me is... Kane Corns is of the view that Beveridge can't coach, but he says they've got the best list in the competition. Now, Kane and I often banter about that. I think the list is overrated, and I think Beveridge can coach. Where do you sit on it?
Well, he's coached a premiership and he's coached another team to a grand final. I mean, it's sort of validated. I mean, I can't rate coach. I say to people, there's 18 teams, 18 coaches. I can't tell you what each individual coach is contributing to his team. Like, I don't know, even from inside the club, it's hard to make that call, let alone sitting in the grandstand. I mean, you see how the team plays, but then connecting, they play that way because of the way this guy coaches them, or another guy might coach them differently. I don't look at footy like that.
Do we overrate the role of the coach on match day? I mean, Ross Lyon has this huge reputation as being a great coach, lateral thinker and all that sort of stuff. The Saints threw away a game on the weekend they definitely should have won. And I didn't see any moves come from the box that was going to stem the tide when the Swans took over.
To answer your question, I believe we take too much notice of the senior coach and therefore the influence or the role that he's playing within his team's performance.
So the art of coaching and Luke Beveridge at the moment with his defence, like what are you seeing?
Well, I think the conversation will always be around the players who are out. What could you do with bringing them back in and what they could add? But I think the thing that, when you watch the game from behind the goals, which as players you never used to like because you always used to get found out, but what I see is a lack of leadership. And that comes out in communication. So Luke Hodge was the best I ever saw. If this vision was of Luke Hodge, you would see his arms pointing and you could actually tell him yelling, too often when you see this Western Bulldogs side, mainly against top 8 sides, when you don't have time to recover, is the communication breakdown. So once again, you've got O'Donnell here. Taylor Walker's already in a strong position. He's watching the ball. There's a handover. There's been no acknowledgement of the handover from Caulfield. So right now you've got Taylor Walker in the left-hand pocket with basically no opponent because they're all being drawn to Isaac Rankin. So this happens time and time again with the Dogs. And I think what you realise is you always mark them against top 8 sides and bottom 8 sides. Well, bottom 8 sides, you've got time to recover. So if this is a bottom 8 side and the ball is further up the field, there might be another mistake. So now Caulfield's got time to reassess and come back onto Taylor Walker and all. Against the good sides, you don't have time. As soon as they turn the ball over, they are coming at you. And if you're in the wrong position, if you haven't communicated and you're out of whack, you get that type of result. The turnovers, the defensive half turnovers on the weekend were about the same. They were about 40. Adelaide kicked 6 goals, 6 goals to Western Bulldogs 0-1 point. The difference is the speed of turnover once you play the top echelon.
Explain this to me. The Bulldogs have kicked 20 goals more than any other team in the competition. They're 128 points clear of the next best. And why can't they beat a good side?
They've beaten up on the little boys. I think that...
So you think they're flat-track bullies?
Well, it seems this year that has been the
profile
trend.
Suggests that. Like we've just seen the graphic there versus top 8
You think
sides.
they don't like in other words, if they score, great, you go back to the centre bounce. But if you don't score, the ball bounces from their front half into their back half too quickly.
Absolutely. So there's one, the midfield pressure, but the really good sides and the really good defences are set, anticipating that there will be a turnover. I think what you see with the Dogs is when they play the top sides and there's a turnover further up the field and there's no midfield pressure, they are quite often out of position and there's handovers, lack of communication, and I think that's evident by just watching the tape.
Let's talk about the team that did do an absolute number on them, and that was the Crows. And the three-headed monster that is Adelaide at the moment, Lee. I've had my doubts about it. I'm starting to come around that it can work. The mechanical part of it's starting to actually come together, and it is a beast that no other team has.
Well, it's certainly dangerous. I mean, Thilthorpe has a really good forward who can be the second ruckman. That's a really valuable role, so that part's good. And Fogarty and Walker seem to... While they're tallish key position players, they find holes in space and lead sideways, and they certainly look like a team who can score. But we talk about the Bulldogs comparatively. Their defence is relatively unknown in name, in reputation. But their defence is looking much more solid, I would have thought, the Crows. And that's where the two... They look like they can score, but they also look a little bit more solid in that back group.
Mike, give me a quick one, because we're about to move on to the Gold Coast. Sam Darcy or Riley Thilthorpe looking forward?
Immediately or long-term?
Or in the next 3 years?
I think Darcy's the most exciting talent in the comp by a long way.
And how close have you got Riley Thilthorpe?
Well, close-ish, but not... I'm a massive Darcy.
Can I say something about Sam Darcy? I hear people say when he's ground level, gee, that's really good for a 208-centimetre player, right? But is it so good for a 195-centimetre player? In other words, he's got to be able to mark the ball a lot because he's pretty good at ground level. He's a unique talent, but I think it's a bit like, I don't know whether he's doing as much as everyone thinks he can do or is doing, you know, because his second effort stuff at ground level's been good. But it's still that aerial stuff is still going to be the key. And like on Saturday, wasn't they played? He was running under the ball all the time, Jack. You know, when you're trying to mark the ball up here, even though you're about 3 metres up, it's very hard to hold it.
That's not normal. That's not usually. He's been...
No, well, I think that's why he might take the game apart when he gets the ball out in front a little bit more. Because anyway, I just think it's we're kind of sort of ticking him for the agility he's got. When his game, the aerial stuff is going to be the be-all and end-all.
I think it'll come, and I think he'll break a game apart very soon. You were up and watched one of the AFL's Nepo babies, as Ross Lyon has described them, the Gold Coast Suns, and in the first quarter, first half, it looked like they had arrived.
Well, they did. I mean, 6 goals. They only kicked 6 goals when you say only, but Collingwood didn't score. They kicked 8 behinds, but they were really good in that first half of the game, the Suns, and Rowell and Anderson, they were good up around the middle. But I mean, as I say, sometimes inaccuracy really distorts things. So Collingwood were off the boil. but they were still only 6 goals behind when they brought Scott Pendlebury back on.
Yeah, and you can see the first half versus second half difference there, but the list difference in their demographic as well.
Yeah, well, that was before the game and after. So you have a look at it. What the Suns are, they're heavy in the under-25s and light in the over-30s. Collingwood are exactly opposite. They're heavy in the over-30s and light in the under-25s. So I just think at the moment Collingwood are a better team than the Suns, even though they didn't get over the line on Friday night. But you'd think in 2 or 3 years' time, the Suns will be better than Collingwood just purely on those demographic kind of numbers.
I didn't think that Dimmer was entitled to be happy with that result. They got out of it, but they gave it away and pinched it back. But I thought they were poor in the second half.
Talk about one of the great conundrums, the conundrum of minutes for Craig McRae and obviously his ageing stars. He spoke to Lee and the boys pre-game. About 1,000 minutes to go in the rest of the season.
I'm going to guess maybe there's 1,000 minutes left. Yeah. I'd hate to think that one player would play all those 1,000 minutes, if that makes sense. Yeah. And, you know, whether we manage them at training or we manage them, you know, with like Pendles tonight, potentially, who knows? He can come on, he can play a full game. We'd be silly not to make the most of those opportunities.
How hard's the balancing act in front of Craig McRae and his staff in getting this right for the tilt at the Premiership Cup?
I'd rather be in that position than in the position of still trying to make the 8 or in a less rebuild. I think it's difficult in a sense, but once again, Lee's just showed the age and the demographic of the side, and I think that would be a really easy conversation. One, because the players know their body. 2, because the club is as confident in terms of the fitness staff as nearly any club in the league. And 3, the players are selfless. Like, it takes a selfless player to be a sub, to be able to manage their minutes. So you actually hand over a lot of trust to the fitness staff. So I don't think it's a difficult thing to manage at all, because the players buy into it.
What about if Pendlebury, who prepares better than anyone that I've known in football, what about if he wanted to play all the time? And he says to McRae, he says, don't worry about the age.
I think they would have genuine conversations around that. But then Scott, I think, would be thinking about, OK, so if I'm sub, it means whoever was sub last week or the week before then doesn't have to be. So he gets exposed to AFL minutes, so then he's better prepared to then come finals. So it's not about Scott or how many years he's played, or it is about a holistic view. So that side is as well prepared as they think they can possibly be.
Well, on Friday night, if Scott Pendlebury's sub, he's better off if he's playing. Collingwood are better off, right? So what they're saying, for short-term pain, we'll have him as a sub, maybe hope he only plays 30 minutes, but he'll be better in the weeks and the months ahead. And it's something I reckon Geelong have been doing over the last decade. They even only have their top 21 performances actually goes into the club championship voting, because they know they're going to manage players. And it's interesting when you look at the top few teams in Geelong, that the Lions, they had about 12 players, or half their team had played every game going into the grand final last year, and you know how well they played. So maybe managing players...
Well, Sydney was the opposite.
But it just seems to me that managing your players, like if you're going into a grand final, that could be the 27th game, like 23 plus potentially 4 finals. You'd think you'd like players to have only played 24, 25 games. And I reckon Geelong is certainly managing that, and Collingwood is certainly doing that. The Lions are interesting because the Lions have sort of got those decisions to make. Do they just keep playing them?
Well, it's compounding too.
It seemed to work last year, so it worked last year.
But you didn't rest players?
No. Well, as a coach, I could not possibly put a team out of our list that wasn't going to give us the best chance of winning. But as I say, I think it's such a brutally demanding game.
Yeah.
You've got to, as they're doing now, but with their training loads and all those kind of things, how do we get the best out of them? And playing 27 games in a season just might not be up. A lot of players might not be able to do that.
Yeah. Hawthorn 13, 14, 15 clearly played every game of the season. 16 we ran out of gas right at the end. I think you know that is maybe a little bit contributing to the massive seasons that you have when you're at the top echelon.
Well, Mike, I know you watch footy sporadically, but one of the big stories at the moment is the Carlton Football Club.
Yes, it is.
And we saw maybe a few little positive signs on the weekend. Contested ball.
Not on my telly, we didn't.
No positive signs from you at all?
No.
What do you make of it all?
Well, I can't understand, I can't believe the decline in the Carlton Football Club. In the 30 years since 1995, their last premiership, they've finished bottom 6 16 times. This staggers me about them. I think.
Got a reason why?
Well, my own unofficial view is
Well, it'll be official in a sec.
Carlton didn't care in the old days. If they had a problem, they got the brown paper bag, filled it up, went into state.
You mean you can't buy premierships this century?
Yeah.
And that is the bottom line of it all. Like the Eagles are bottom of the ladder, and they've got more money than you can make a stick at.
Correct.
So you can't buy premierships.
And their list management has been poor. I'm not talking about, not aiming at anyone particular, but over a period, if you go through and have a check their draft choices, their trading's been poor, the list management's been poor. And I thought they were disgraceful the other night.
Wasn't that the... They looked like they were having a go. They were just inept.
That's right.
That's why it was even worse.
Here are some of the errors from the game against the, obviously, last year's premiership winners in the Lions, and they're fundamental skill errors, Mike.
They are. And in the first quarter, there were 12 occasions where they executed unforced errors by hand or foot. 12 in a quarter.
So Graham Wright comes into this football club.
Graham Wright must be pair of the magician.
But what's the first thing on his list to do then?
Well, if I were Graham Wright,
everything.
I'd ring Ned Kelly and say, "Can I come back to Collingwood?" He's got a massive task.
Where do you start?
Well, Simon Lloyd and is it
Brad Lloyd?
Brad. He's in trouble.
Manager.
The recruiting people are in trouble, and Vossi's in trouble.
You think Vossi's in trouble?
Yeah. There's no question he's in trouble.
So do you think...
I mean, he doesn't go out and miss set shots for goal and allow the ball to bounce through when there's three people and they don't touch. That's not his fault, but there's something wrong in that footy team, and he's the coach and the buck stops with him.
So they need to go and get a premiership coach then, because they've done that. Is that not the history of Carlton that you're talking about?
Mick Malthouse and Dennis Pagan, and I don't think either of them were impressed with what they found at Carlton. But, geez, they're a long way off worrying about a premiership.
It is an interesting case study, though. I mean, the great sides of the 90s, you know, we talk about Carlton, we talk about Essendon, and they've just failed to get the club in a position of strength, and maybe that's over-indexing in the Stars, which what brought them premierships in the 80s and 90s, and that hasn't served them well in the modern era.
That 95 Carlton team had Kuda, who was for a period was the best player in the competition. Kernahan, Diesel, Bradley, Mackay, Camporelli, Clapper and Spalding all came from interstate, so they just targeted them. And
4 days before when you actually went and got players from interstate rather than they were just all in the draft.
So, you know, it helps when you can do that. Yep. But their selections since have been poor. They've got the worst recruiting record in the competition, I reckon.
What do you think needs to happen within Carlton from a list point of view?
Oh, I've said it, 2 weeks ago. I think there really needs to be a point in time where they sit down and work out who's got currency, because if you look at their list right now, this is not going to be their next premiership list.
No.
So the honest conversations will happen with the players, and Graham Wright is the perfect guy to do this, having list management experience and now the CEO. Who's got currency? I thought Melbourne missed a trick last year with the players who wanted to leave.
Oliver and
Petrarca wanted to leave, and now their currency is not as strong as it was only 12 months ago. So if they don't make these decisions, I think at the end of this year, like I said a couple of weeks ago, I think they'll put themselves back another 5 to 10 years.
Their currency's diminished, though. I don't think this year... Carlton and Brisbane, I don't think there was a Carlton player who warranted a spot in the Brisbane team.
Yeah, I don't think this year. I think if it then goes on for 1 or 2 more years, those players become irrelevant.
The list where it always starts. It doesn't start because it's like the end of the process, but doing a good list management, recruiting, free agency, picking up. That's what any team has to do to be any good.
Yep. Plenty to play out for Carlton, and there's plenty to play out at the tribunal as well. John Ralph has the latest on a kangaroo who's copped a heavy suspension.
Hello, Jack. Yes, a 3-week ban for Tristan Cherry for his strike on Tom Sparrow. Now, the Roos will decide tomorrow about an appeal. I think it's more likely, but there are some grounds if they're a little bit sketchy. So this was basically a coat hanger motion. As you see here, though, Christian Salem pushes Jai Simpkin and then pushes Sparrow. You can see Sparrow pitch forward and lower his height. So there is a case to be made that potentially that mitigated the circumstances, but it's going to cost another 10 grand under the soft cap. They've already lost that with Jackson Archer and Paul Curtis, guys. So, yeah, I think 3 weeks, and I think it's going to be hard for him to overcome that one.
What do you make of that, Lee?
Well, I think he's probably guilty, and the matrix says if the victim gets concussed, you get 3 weeks. It was just in terms of their comparison with Ed Richards a couple of weeks ago against Luke Davies-Uniacke. Like he had the ball, And as he approached Davis Uniacke, he put his elbow up, basically, or his forearm up, and hit. See this one in the head there. Now they let him off because that maybe was worth a week. But if he'd been found guilty, it was going to be 3 weeks. And I was really interested how the match review would look at the Cherry one, because it wasn't that much different. I mean, he hung his hand out there. He was probably guilty, but because it's an automatic 3-weeker, I just wondered whether the match review panel, even the tribunal, had been saying, oh, it's either naught if he's naught or 3, and 3's too much. And I reckon 3's too much.
But the bloke was knocked out.
Yeah, that's why it's 3. That's
we
what
always have this debate about whether it's the action or the consequences. But when a bloke is KO'd, he was out cold. So there has to be a penalty. If you find him guilty...
Yeah, if he's found guilty, that's what I'm saying, and he's been found guilty, so it's 3 weeks. But I thought Ed Richards was just as guilty, but he got off.
I reckon this one will be a watch this space.
But LDU was concussed.
As well.
That's right. As well, yeah. Oh, I think... It's not a great look when someone gets knocked out and then falls to the floor. I think he's unlucky in a sense because I think he was pushed. I thought his helmet actually came down a little bit, which might...
I don't reckon they're going to use that as an excuse.
Which might not, but I thought that was a bit of a side.
Would you appeal it?
I'd appeal
it. Well, they've lost twice, Mike, but we've got to get onto the play-on because we have got one of the great debates happening after this. We're going to chat all things State of Origin, the great game of AFL and the great spectacle of state versus state. We are going to have that debate right here on the couch.
Hit me the first weekend of March how make-believe February footy is. This thought of playing State of Origin in the middle of February is either crazy or demeaning State of Origin, one or the other.
Yeah. Well, how could it work? And I'm in agreement with you there, Lee, that February is not the time for State of Origin footy. But, Mike, how could it work?
Well, I love it, Jack, like you do. And I would like to see it back, but I don't want the AFL saying we're going to play it in the school holidays.
Who plays who and when? That's what I want to know.
We'll answer that. Well, Victoria plays either WA or SA.
Western Australia.
One year, and then they play the other the next year.
Right. Don't forget, Adelaide and South Australia have got gather round, so that's their little thing at the moment. First year, so next year, round 12, we've had an absolute cluster this year with the buys. 5 weeks of buys. That did not work. That cannot happen next year. We need a season-wide buy, round 12 next year. And you can see there, Western Australia play Victoria at Optus Stadium on Saturday night, and it is one of the great spectacles. It might be the best spectacle behind AFL Grand Final Day, Lee.
Well, it is in rugby league. They've taken our idea.
Yeah, but they don't have to decide who's playing who. There's two states that play each other.
You just play them in over 2 years. Rugby league have taken this concept from the AFL and turned it into the biggest TV event of the year.
But the other thing, they play it Wednesday night. Jack, could we play it to make it a really spectacle? Could you play it midweek?
Standalone on the weekend, Lee, in the bye. The whole AFL world stops for one of the great spectacles of AFL. There you can see Western Australia v Victoria, 2 squads of 26 players, so you allow a few more on the bench to then obviously manage the minutes, which is a big thing. Obviously injuries as well, but injuries happen. And I think with the financial side of this too, that this is something, Louis, that the players would absolutely jump at, as they jumped at gather round as well. When that was proposed, everyone talks about the game being too long. Maybe this could be a shorter game as well. And to appease some of the other players, there's no Thursday night footy there, so no one's coming off and having a 5-day break. At least there's a 6-day break there. This could be one of the great jewels in the crown of the AFL.
Yeah, well, I think it'd be one of the great things if Swanee can get it up, if he's passionate about it. I mean, you're the latest player to come out and retire, and I can see how passionate you are. The thing that
I think you, Geordie?
I would have loved to have played. Absolutely, hands down. And
would you have played for free?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. Yeah. So do you think there needs to be a financial remuneration for players to
Well, we
play,
know the players these days, they don't do anything for free. So I think the other thing that, the more you think about it, is players who are unlucky to go to clubs who aren't successful and then they finish their career and they've had really good careers. If they earn a chance to play for their state, their CV post their career is well credentialed. It doesn't say a premiership, but it says I've been a 6-time Victorian representative or a 6-time WA representative, whatever it might be. It actually gives these players something to be proud of. I like it. I would have loved to have played it. I think there's genuine excitement if they could get it up. And I think you're right. If you played in Perth, which they love their sport, I think it would be a great spectacle. Well, we have too much footy here.
No, but this elevates the game to another level.
I wouldn't be locked on playing it in Victoria.
It's a different game. I mean, you played it. The ball never hit the ground. It was just people who love football love watching the best players play. And the AFL were clever enough or lucky enough to have Lockett and Dunstall commit to play, and then everyone followed suit because the big boys were in. 90,000 people at the game, and then they just discontinued it. It was just an abominable decision.
Yeah, I think if putting my player's hat on, if there was a decision to be made whether you are representing Victoria or your club mid-season, I would play for the state.
Lee,
good.
We sold you on State of Origin.
Well, you still got the problem of like what are those passionate Ally supporters out there? They're throwing things at the TV. I am being facetious. And the South Australian ones, because that's the problem.
They'll get their chance in
There's four groups. Yeah, but there's four groups. All I'm saying is the point. You've got to have a week off. That's the point. If you're going to play it, then you've got to have a weekend off and play it in that mid-season. In that mid-season.
Right, it's a constant.
That part I agree totally with.
It's a constant debate. We need to make it happen, Mike.
And I'm with you, Jack, all the way. And if you don't make yourself available for Victoria, you don't play the following week for your club.
Ooh, that's a big one there. Well, it's a dual invoice night for Johnny Ralph. We're going to head back into the newsroom, and Ralphie, the fallout at West Coast continues.
Yeah, no one seems to be happy across the whole league about the 4-week ban by Jack Graham for his homophobic language. Now, the fans are wondering why Willie Rioli got only a 1-week ban for his inflammatory and violent language against an opponent online. The Eagles might have hoped for a greater discount given that they did self-report, and Jack self-reported. I think the AFL would be asking the Eagles the question, why did it take a full week for you to come forward with the news of that homophobic language? And so why are the differing suspensions? So Jeremy Finlayson in April last year got a 3-week ban for his homophobic language. Now, 4 weeks later, Will Power got 5 weeks because the AFL felt like they'd already put a shot across everyone's bows. And then Lance Collard got 6 weeks because of multiple infractions, repeated infractions against multiple opponents in the VFL, and now Graham gets 4 because he's self-reported to the AFL. It's an absolute dog's breakfast, and so that's why the AFL-PA is really keen on a code of conduct. They think it would be a consistent framework in regard to discipline. So if it's GWS and Wacky Wednesday, whether it's some of those players like Bailey Smith, of course, and his dramas with conduct unbecoming, or if it is for homophobic language there, we'd get due process, we'd get players able to see what they're alleged to have been charged with, and potentially we'd see what the AFL wants, which is consistency there. It's in the CBA. It's supposed to have been brought in by September last year. It hasn't happened yet. The AFL is dragging their feet. Guys, that's the acting CEO of the AFLPA. What do you think about something like a framework? Because right now, no one knows what any penalty will be.
Mike, what are we to make of that? Four examples, and none of them align with the actual week's suspension.
No, they're not. And this won't make me popular, or any more popular.
You're already not popular. That's
but I was staggered when I read that he'd got 4 weeks. I mean, imagine, let's say it was Toby Green, right? And let's say he called him the F word. I mean, it's like that bloke who was going to murder Michael Voss. I think it's been blown out of proportion. Not because...
I don't know about that.
No,
I think 4 weeks is the right amount here, but I
haven't
think
finished yet.
Consistency, Mike.
Yeah, we're agreed on that, but I don't think it's the carrot and the stick. I'm not sure hitting them over the head with the stick in sort of 4 weeks, 5 weeks, 6 weeks, whatever it is the right way to handle it.
How would you handle it then?
Well, I think it's an education thing. I think
that comes along with the suspension as well,
though. Notionally, but we're only interested in with the immediate impact, aren't we? That he's got 4 weeks. I think you just sort of say, this is embarrassing. Jack was embarrassed about it. He rang player X, and it becomes part of... we educate people rather than just hit them over the head with a stick.
Well, he's got to serve some sort of penalty, and that penalty will be 4 weeks. Greg Swan is the other big talking story, Ralphie, and he starts next Monday.
Yeah, his feet under the desk on Monday at AFL House, and I can tell you some of the big-ticket items that he's likely to get started on straight away. So those who know him really well believe that he's very keen to try and reduce the length of games. Now, in 3 of the games this weekend, we saw 130-plus minutes. Now, I think he would do that not by getting 15 minutes and time on, but potentially, say, throwing the ball up straight away after instead of waiting for Ruckman to try and get to contest. specialist. I think he'd be really open to an SANFL-style last touch rule, whether that's kicking the ball or handballing it over the boundary in between the arcs. And those who know him really well suggested that the CO's conferences across the years, he's been really strong on getting rid of the bounce. You know, he said to people that, look, the umpires shouldn't have a party trick to officiate. You can see how long this can take here. You know, 10, 12 seconds. If you got rid of most of those throw-ins as well, of course, one last kick, play on, we would reduce the amount of games. And I also think you can expect that he would drive down the highway and speak to Stephen Hocking. What's the intent of the stand rule and why are the clubs bastardising it by dragging themselves back off it? So there are a couple of the things that he'd be thinking about. Guys, what do you think the priority should be for Greg Swann in his first weeks at the AFL?
Well, it's a long list, Ralphie. It is a long list of priorities, Lee. The MRO, surely that's priority number one.
Yeah, clean that up. Just make sure it's fit for purpose. I think we know it's not. Because
what does that mean, Lee?
Well, it means like the situation we know where Curtis got 3 weeks for a tackle, of course the guy got concussion. Cherry's going to get 3 weeks for maybe a week penalty, it should be, because the guy got concussion. So the system is wrong. And that should be able to be cleaned up fairly easily. I don't know why the AFL haven't done it straight away, because as soon as the Curtis got his 3 weeks, the system was out, it was wrong. So anyway, that's and anything to do with umpiring is always interesting, isn't it? But remember, the head of footy he's not coaching the umpires. There's a fair hierarchy. What I would be saying to the umpires' coaches, you coach them to do what we want them to do, not what you want them to do. That may be
Four
something
umpires is on your radar, Geordie.
I think they need to reduce the umpires, or at least look at where they stand, because I think consistently, week on week, and this is not their fault. They're once again probably coached to do this, but one umpire who's looking at it pays one decision.
He's got the best view, that umpire.
And the other umpire who cannot see pays play on.
Because he's nearer.
But he doesn't have the best view.
No.
So this is always the issue. So this is another one, another example. The umpire with the best view doesn't pay what should have been a high free kick, and the umpire with. So I constantly see it. I had a few more examples to show tonight, but they're in the road. They're coached to stay in the corridor, which I don't think has the best view.
They back out of the
I think it's clearly something that he needs to address, and sometimes more is not necessarily.
You know, you talk about the best view. The best view is a TV camera with the elevated view. Do you think we ever come to a stage where there is someone in the arc who can sort of pay free kicks or turn them over if they're patently wrong?
I think zone umpires is potentially the way to go forward, and actually doing more research on the zone that they umpire.
Yeah.
Holding the ball, Lee, that's on your radar.
The one that there's that when you're pinned with one arm and you got the ball in the other arm, you can't do anything with it. But somehow someone in the umpiring fraternity's decided that should be holding the ball. So that's become a perfect tackle. Ball's in the opposite hand, you grab the left hand, there's no way you can legally dispose of it, automatic free kick. As I say, it's a bugbear of mine because that's become normal, and I don't know who the hell said that should be the rule.
There are two black and white things in my view. Get rid of the bounce. In an elite competition, you can't have the bloke blow on the whistle, give it back to me and I'll do it again. And the other one is if it goes out of bounds anyway, it's the last bloke to touch it between the arcs.
You could trial them in a State of Origin game in the middle of the season, Lee. Well, Mike, have I got an absolute beauty for you? It is the good, the bad and the ugly, which I know you haven't done before, and we'll do that next. The guests come on and I get demoted to the ugly. The too good over there. Very, very good.
That?
Very, very good.
What's that on the top line? We're about to put our feet up.
Well, I'm about to start. I'll go the good. And mine was the Dockers in the last quarter on the weekend when the game was there to be won. They were fantastic in quarter number 4, and their ability to win ground balls, all 4 goals had a critical ground ball in them at some point. That is a sign of work rate from mine. You can see the numbers there, plus 26 points. Smacked Hawthorn all around the park, but it came down to the effort of just wanting to get ahead of the ball and wanting to get ground balls there. Fantastic effort from Dockers, who really needed to win that. Geordie.
I've gone up to GWS, so Lockie Whitfield plays his 250th, but this was after the game. Lockie Whitfield, a massive Liverpool fan, and they decided to get a massive banner there and play the You'll Never Walk Alone song after it. His grandfather grew up in Liverpool, but I just thought it was a great touch.
That's
just
cool, isn't it?
Signs of really good culture and the joy and that brings to the Giants
Lethal.
Well, Scott Pendlebury, you see role model leadership because that's the example they set, but the influence they have on people around them is sort of unmeasurable. But I reckon if you measured it, Scott Pendlebury about to be the top of the heap. I mean, it just happened that he was sort of sub, came on half-time, Collingwood looked like a different team. But I think the calmness and just the way that he actually can organise and manage his players around him, not in, I suspect, a really harsh way, but just... I think that influences... He's maybe still Collingwood's most valuable player.
Oh, I like that.
Wow.
I like that.
Wow.
Have you got an apology here now?
No.
Oh, okay.
I've got an acknowledgement of Brodie Grundy.
Okay.
They're different, Jack.
OK, sorry. Go on then.
I've been a harsh critic of Grundy's for probably 18 months. I thought the best game I've seen him play in 5 years was at the weekend, and his last quarter when the game was in the balance. He was the most decisive player on the ground. There was a knockout. Like you, Lee, I'm not a big rap on Ruckman, but there was a beautiful palm to Goulden.
Well, that's the winner.
There, and the goal, and there's the game.
It's great, Ruckcraft. I'm from the same game, but this is my bad. So I think we all understand the 6-6-6 rule. You're across the 6-6-6 rule. You get a warning first off. So this is Windhager. So he was the one that was out of position that gets the warning. So he, more than anyone, should understand. So then that happens, they get a warning, centre bounce, go down Sydney Keeper. Then they come back after the Goulden goal, and Windhager has forgotten about the 6-6-6, which then forced the umpire to make a free kick and to Brodie Grundy, and that was game done.
And that's where the stoppage came, where Goulden kicked the winner. Mike, you're bad.
My bad was the vision of Andrew Brayshaw after the Freo game.
Without Kath Lachlan.
With Kath. He had nothing wrong with the interview. Brayshaw looked like he'd been to Gallipoli. He's got a hole in his head, blood streaming everywhere. I'm not sure who's at fault, except I think Freo should have said, we're not going to put him on. We've been fining people for putting the finger up. That's the worst look. If I were a mother at home, and particularly Brayshaw's mother, she's lost... One son's not playing league football because he's had so many head knocks. And there's the other son with that vivid evidence of what's happened to him. So I thought it was a bad look.
Watch for the Dockers there, Lee.
Well, we had a bit of a reunion up there on Friday night pre the Suns Collingwood game. There was Lynchy, Brownie, myself and Fly.
And Fly's giving him nothing.
Brownie's just left him hanging. Finally he said, I better actually shake the hand of the Premiership coach.
He forced him into it. Well, footy, I love footy and I love the Tigers, but my gosh, Saturday night, Richmond v Essendon, that was ugly in all sense of it. And you look at the statistics there, lowest scoring game at the G since 1989. Wow. I was born in 1988, so I was 1 year old when that was happening.
There's no highlight job.
Essendon kicked one goal after three-quarter time, and there was one goal in quarters 2 and 3 from both teams combined. It was a horrible watch.
It's not as if Essendon playing prime time games.
Well, my ugly is concerning the Carlton game and the general lack of leadership with the Blues at the moment. And here's one of them, McGovern, senior player, well-played player. He had 90 seconds to get prepared for that marking contest and ends up putting one arm up. And I just think that's a really bad look when your side is going as poorly as the Blues were.
Yeah, not a great look there. Lee.
Well, Harley Root, I remember the first program I was on, we spoke about his development. He's only in his second year, but his false bravado aggression to me is ugly. And it's really costly both to him and the Eagles, because he gives away a lot of free kicks. I'm not sure what he thinks he's doing. I mean, uncontrolled aggression is really, as I say, it's really bad.
10,000 for that.
We should watch Cam Rayner, who's a big, strong man. Aggression at the ball, at the tackle, or to break tackles. That's it in modern footy. Anything other than that is just false bravado and a waste of time.
Do you think he attacks the ball fiercely enough?
I haven't seen enough to say yes to the question. I'm not sort of questioning it so much, but he has to. I mean, he's a big, strong man, but most of the strength at the moment, or most of it, is in a false bravado, abusive sort of getting involved in verbal stuff.
Is Harley Reid at the West Coast Eagles in 2 years' time?
No.
What about next year?
I would think unlikely, but I'm not sure. But well,
you'd have to be after the feedback he gave to Jason Horne-Francis.
Yeah.
1 year and you went home to mum.
Yes, very interesting feedback. Well, I'll tell you what we do have. We do have the baseball back. We're not going to sing the praises there. You can see the baseball. The late, great Robert Wall was an old sparring partner of yours, Mike, and you're going to bring it out next. I cannot wait to see what you've got for us.
Baseball back.
After this.
Robert Walls medal up for grabs tonight. Jason, you're voting on that for the player that embodies the late Robert Walls. He was a captain and a coach at both clubs. It'll be a significant honour for those players chasing it tonight.
Yeah, you better be tough. Great tackle. Another one of those. I'm going to bury your tackles. Dunkley cuts it off. But marked by Dunkley. Dunkley's been magnificent. He's fought the fight tonight.
The inaugural Robert Walls medal goes to Josh Dunkley.
Yes, a very deserving winner of the first Robert Walls medal there, presented by Daniel Walls, Robert's son. And we're going to go back to a bit of Walls.
This is what should have been presented, Jack.
Can you give us a bit of an insight into the baseball bat and Robert?
No one can dispute this, so I'm saying I coined the phrase the baseball bat because when Walsey took aim, he hit you hard. And you could see it coming. He cleared the throat, prepared, and then went bang. And if he were here now...
Who is it?
He would take this bat, line it squarely at the West Coast Eagles.
West Coast?
Yes, and say, why didn't you blokes have the Jats Crackers 3 years ago to draft the local boy Daniel Curtin rather than fall in for the stampede about Harley Reid?
He's an amazing talent.
This kid, Adelaide took this kid at number 8, right? He played for Claremont. He should have been playing for West Coast, and they would have had him for 15 years.
And he wanted to play for West Coast too, the local boy.
Yeah. I mean, I can't understand why clubs generally don't pick local blokes, because you remove that threat of them going home. A lot of them go home.
Yeah, I defend Eagles a fraction by saying if he was second or third pick, you might... But it's a fair gap between what one pick is rated as an 8 pick.
Well, he's 20 and he's 197 centimetres.
Yeah, no, he's a good player.
And he's playing very well in a good side.
He's a very good player. Now, Mike, we're coming to the end of the show. How have you enjoyed being back on the couch?
I didn't know I'd left.
You didn't know you'd left?
He looks comfortable, I can tell you.
I am.
And
if I could reach the table, I'd put my feet up.
Can we have you next week? Are you going to come back next week?
Well, I'd have to see what the reviews are like.
All right, we'll get upstairs and sign the contract. He's coming back next week. Yeah, this is On the Couch. We can't wait to see you next Monday.